Tonight, last-minute preparations before Category 5 Cyclone Narell slams into the state's far north. Welcome to ABC News Queensland. I'm Jessica Van Vonderen, live from Cairns, as residents on the Cape hunker down. The PM's new fuel task force as suppliers are investigated by the consumer watchdog. A warning global energy security is at risk after Israel bombs the largest natural gas field in the world. Besieged Broncos coach Michael Maguire finds an unlikely ally after critics weigh in.
And severe tropical cyclone Narell expected to cross the coast at 7 a.m. tomorrow, with Cohen in the firing line.
Good evening. People in far north Queensland may well be used to cyclones, but what's heading for the Cape tonight is in no way ordinary. Far from it. Cyclone Narell is a Category 5, expected to cross the coast tomorrow morning near Cohen. These are remote communities, but a cyclone of that strength has the potential to do serious damage. Here in Cairns, well, we're not in the cyclone warning zone, but even here, we're on flood watch because there's the potential for hundreds of millimetres of rain over the next few days. In a moment, we'll hear from our reporter in Cooktown, Christopher Texter, but our coverage begins with Christy Sexton-McGrath.
As the wind and rain set in, locals are preparing for conditions to get much, much worse. Winds in excess of 250 kilometres an hour and more than half a metre of rain a day are forecast for between Cooktown and Lockhart River.
The type of wind that is being predicted is the sort of thing that will blow apart sheds, that will blow caravans down roadways and create fields of airborne debris.
Knock, knock.
Police used the final hours of relative calm to door-knock residents in Cohen and Lockhart River.
Just make sure everyone's all right, it's getting squared away.
Locals bracing for the force of Cyclone Narell's arrival tomorrow morning, with power potentially out for a number of days.
Water, toilet paper.
The communities, they're really pulling together. Everyone's been helping each other clean out their yards.
It's now expected to cross as a Category 5 system.
It's looking like it'll move just to the north of Cape Melville and then cross the coast nearly directly east of Cohen.
It's an area that's no stranger to wild weather. But residents are being warned against complacency, with the system expected to maintain its strength long after crossing the coast.
Category 5 systems don't cross the coast that frequently. 4 times in half a century in Queensland, in what is a state that's no stranger to disasters.
The system is set to linger over the north into next week, moving from Cape York into the Northern Territory and across Western Australia, bringing heavy rain and strong winds. But with multiple alerts across Queensland's far north, it's an anxious wait for communities as they hunker down and wait. Christy Sexton-McGrath, ABC News.
And the Premier, David Crisafulli, joins us now. Premier, thank you very much for your time. For those directly in the path of Cyclone Narell tonight, where should they be right now?
Well, Jess, they've been asked to make their plan, and where they are now is where they have to stay. We're in the order of about 12 hours until that system crosses, and you've seen during the course of the last few days, you've seen it intensify. This morning, before sunrise, we saw it get to a Category 4. It was at a 5 by mid-morning, and it hasn't it's weakened in any way, shape or form, and it continues to track towards Cohen. And interestingly, it's not just between Lockhart River and Cape Tribulation. That warning area goes all the way through to the western part of the Cape, because it is a big system, and that's why we've been urging people to take it seriously. So where they are now, the decision they've made, they've got to bunker down, make sure that they've got water, and be in the safest room in their house, and I can assure you we'll be there before, during and after the event to help them through.
As you say, it is a big system. It's a Cat 5, and we have seen in the past the kind of damage a Cat 5 can do. It's nearly 20 years ago to the day that Cyclone Larry hit Innisfail, and that was just devastating. What kind of damage are you expecting from this system?
It'll be significant, Jessica. I can't sugarcoat it. This is a really big system, and whilst it's going over an area that may not be large in population, they still matter to us. They're still Queenslanders, and they are in the firing line tonight, and that's why it's really important. We've been working really well with the councils as well as the federal agencies. We have resources on the ground. We've had people in the emergency services, whether they're Swiftwater Rescue. You've seen police have been going door to door. There were some people who chose to evacuate, others who have stayed in place. But we've got people who have left friends and family and loved ones from Cairns to Brizzy, and they're on the ground there tonight. And you've got to pay tribute to people like that. That's an incredible effort. And I'm just urging people just to make sure that you do the right thing during the event, and then we'll go into recovery mode after that occurs.
Premier, just very quickly, we know that power often gets knocked out. How long might people be in the dark?
Jess, it'll be significant. There's no doubt about it. A system this size will cause immense damage, and you'll also have issues with telecommunications. And that's why it's so very important that we are on the ground to try and help people through. But look, I don't want to understate this. This is a really, really big system, and we've been urging people to take it seriously. We certainly have. I've got every faith that we'll get through it, but it is a significant event.
Premier, appreciate your time tonight.
Thanks.
Well, let's take you to Cooktown now. Our reporter Christopher Tester is there. He filed this report a little earlier.
The time to prepare for Tropical Cyclone Narell here in Cooktown is over. It's now time to hunker down at a safe and secure location. It's been a busy afternoon here in Cooktown, where local SES volunteers have been helping residents with last-minute sandbagging and placing tarps on roofs. Earlier this morning, water levels at the Little Annan River crossing to the south of town allowed people to make their final decisions to stay or go. Now, Cooktown is south of the cyclone's direct path, but residents can still expect dangerous wind gusts, high tides, heavy rain and flash flooding. The main street was quiet today. Schools will be closed tomorrow, and it's no time for boaties to be on the water. Residents of Cowan, directly in the cyclone's path, have been told to store water to last through the night. Everyone in this part of Cape York is being told to stay off the road. By late afternoon, strong winds and heavy rain picked up. Just the beginning of what's to come. Jess?
Christopher Tester reporting there. Well, let's bring in Jenny Woodward now. Hello, Jenny. How often will the Bureau be updating its advice?
Well, Jess, the next warning is due at 8 o'clock, and those warnings will come in every 3 hours from now. As we know, Narell is a very destructive system sitting about 327 kilometres east of Cowan. Now it's powering west at 27 kilometres an hour, and that's very fast for a cyclone. We're expecting that crossing as a Category 5 around 7 a.m. in the morning, passing directly over the township of Cowan. But the warning zone does extend from Lockhart River to Cape Tribulation, right across the Cape, and then from Mapoon down to Pomparau. That includes Weipa and Arakoon. And the Northern Territory also has a watch zone. On the satellite, you can see the cyclone's eye. Storms are firing off around the very destructive core. We've got sustained winds of 220 kilometres per hour and gusts up to 315. Now, those extreme conditions extend about 20 kilometres out from the centre. Rainfall totals of up to 500 millimetres are possible. Narell will then continue the westward run, possibly to the Indian Ocean. So it could make an appearance on 3 or 4 coastlines, and just that is very rare.
Extraordinary. Jenny, thank you so much. Well, I can tell you that organisations like the Queensland Reconstruction Authority are already here in Cairns, ready to hit the ground running as soon as this cyclone passes, to head north and offer whatever assistance is required to those communities. But until then, take care, stay safe, and I'll hand you over now to Lexy Hamilton-Smith in our Brisbane studio for the rest of today's news.
Good evening. In other news, the bombing of the world's largest gas fields in the Persian Gulf has marked a significant escalation in the Middle East. Those details in a moment, but first, the Albanese government has moved to calm fears of fuel security, unveiling a new task force to shore up supply. The full impact of the war on Australia remains uncertain, but the Treasurer is warning prolonged conflict could see inflation jump above 5%. We have a detailed analysis on what lies ahead, but we begin our coverage with National Affairs correspondent Jane Norman.
Emerging from an emergency meeting of the National Cabinet.
I want to assure Australians at this time that Australia is well prepared.
The Prime Minister unveils the nation's new fuel supply coordinator, Anthea Harris, a former head of Australia's energy regulator, to work with the states to get petrol and diesel to where it's needed, as the Middle East conflict fuels prices and panic.
Our nation's fuel supply remains strong and not in doubt.
Demand is still the problem, but no appetite for rationing yet.
My message to Australians is please do not take more fuel than you need.
But signs are emerging of friction around the table.
We want two things to flow: information and fuel.
As leaders were meeting, the competition watchdog revealed it's investigating some of Australia's biggest fuel companies. Ampol, BP, Mobil and Viva probed for potential collusion. It's not our usual practice to publicly announce investigations, the ACCC chair said in a statement, but we recognise the widespread concerns about fuel pricing and supply. With the war battering Australia's economy, the Prime Minister's patience is clearly wearing out. Initially supportive of America's actions, he's now looking to how this conflict ends and hoping that comes quickly.
We'll continue to argue for a de-escalation.
The Treasurer of Australia.
The Treasurer today laying bare the cost to the economy, rising inflation, falling growth and productivity to remain sluggish for longer. But he's not resiling from plans for bigger tax reforms in the budget.
All of this economic uncertainty and volatility is a reason for more reform, not less.
As unemployment rose to 4.3% in February.
An admission of complete and utter failure. Interest rates going up, inflation going up, people working harder for less.
Businesses and households feeling the pain. Jane Norman, ABC News, Canberra.
So the war may be continuing, but the Prime Minister is suggesting one of its main objectives has now been met. Here's political lead David Spears.
As this crisis deepens, the economic toll is rising and so is the degree of difficulty facing the government. Food and fertiliser are the immediate focus, but the knock-on effects will be felt across the entire economy. Treasury is scrambling to model the impacts. As each day passes, the outlook worsens. Today, the Prime Minister suggested something of an off-ramp. He says one of the main objectives of this war has now been achieved. Iran, he argues, can no longer develop a nuclear weapon. Whether that's true or not is hotly debated. Iran's missile capability has been degraded, but it's still thought to have more than 400 kilograms of highly enriched uranium stored underground. And the regime, of course, is still there. The Prime Minister, however, has had enough of the escalating damage. While acknowledging it's up to Donald Trump to decide when to end this war, it's clear Anthony Albanese now believes one of the main tasks has been achieved. Iran's nuclear threat is no more.
Israel's bombing of Iran's massive gas field has prompted a warning from Gulf states that global energy security is at risk. It sits underneath the Persian Gulf, where hundreds of ships have been stranded as Iran blocks the Strait of Hormuz, holding up to 51 trillion cubic metres of natural gas. The reserve is shared by Iran and Qatar. Israel's attacks have prompted Iran to retaliate, placing vital energy facilities right at the centre of the conflict.
A fire rips through Iran's massive South Pass gas field. Israeli forces targeting Tehran's sector of the world's largest gas reserve. A major escalation set to have a devastating impact on Iran's energy supplies.
So this is really hitting the ability for Iran to keep the lights on.
Just hours later, Iran exacted its revenge. Unverified vision showing the impact of a ballistic missile assault on the Ras Laffan industrial city in Qatar, as Tehran delivers on its promise to attack energy facilities throughout the Gulf.
Fuel, energy and gas infrastructures that are the source of the invasion will be reduced to ashes.
The Qatari government has labelled the strike a flagrant breach of international law, requesting Iranian embassy staff leave the country within 24 hours.
Qatar is not a participant in this conflict, but Iran has chosen to attack unprovoked 12 countries.
Donald Trump has also responded, threatening to blow up the entirety of the South Pass gas field if there are further strikes against Qatar. Inside Tehran, thousands of mourners gathered to honour slain Iranian official Ali Larijani and his son Morteza, killed in an Israeli missile attack. Their supporters are vowing to continue the fight.
War until victory. War until we avenge the blood of our loved ones.
Another top Iranian official, Ismail Khatib, has also been killed.
Israel's policy is clear. No one in Iran has immunity and everyone is in the crosshairs.
US and Israeli flags are being burned in the squares of Tehran as the White House attempts to diminish fears of a protracted war.
The President of the United States is not interested in getting us, in the kind of long-term quagmires that we've seen in years past.
Israel is also continuing its heavy bombardment of southern Lebanon. Blasts and debris are causing major destruction in Beirut as well.
Hours after an Israeli strike levelled this building, which was more than a dozen stories, you can still see fires are burning in the rubble over there. All the while, the constant buzz of Israeli drones circling above.
We won't pay or surrender or give up our land. I'd rather die.
Living alongside danger, the new normal in this city. Matthew Doran, ABC News, Beirut.
The escalation and soaring oil prices sent the share market tumbling today, wiping $50 billion off the value of stocks. It has experts weighing in on the risks to Australia's $4 trillion pool of superannuation.
Colin Park has watched thousands of dollars evaporate from his super balance since the war began.
Unnerving, I think, is the first thing. Probably a stiff scotch, followed by a dose of reality.
Markets have been rattled by an energy shock, an inflation outbreak, higher interest rates and weaker economic growth. The latest attacks pushing the oil price past $110 a barrel, while the ASX 200 has now lost roughly 7% since the war began, or around $250 billion from its February record high.
The key message for markets from the events in the Middle East is that the war is far from over.
Anyone with superannuation is exposed. $4.5 trillion are invested, with the average balance at around $250,000 for those approaching retirement. Super Ratings Director Kirby Rappel says now is when people start to think about adjusting their portfolio.
Typically, moving to cash is easy. Figuring out when to move back is hard.
So I would say, be careful not to sell out at the bottom and crystallise your loss. Hold your nerve.
The process of moving your super savings away from shares and more towards cash can take as little as a couple of days. But experts warn people should seek their own personal financial advice before making any major investment decisions.
It can be really hard for people to understand if I do nothing, I actually might be doing more.
For now at least, Colin Park is holding his nerve. David Taylor, ABC News.
Well, some Queensland households battered by soaring fuel prices could soon see some relief in their power bills. The energy regulator has proposed cuts to benchmark power prices in certain states.
Like so many Australian energy users, Luke Cuarto has endured a rough ride lately.
Do I pay the electricity bill on time or do I just forfeit some of it just so I can go to the shops and buy food?
But amid the doom and gloom of yet another energy crisis, a small bright spot has emerged. After years of increases, benchmark power prices are set to fall by up to 10% in southeast Queensland, 8.2% in New South Wales and 1.3% in South Australia. It follows a decision last week to lower benchmark prices in Victoria by 3%.
We've seen much lower wholesale electricity costs over the last 12 months, much less volatility in our markets.
Analysts say pressure is likely to return in the years ahead as coal plants close and spending on the energy transition increases. Still, the federal government says renewable energy is easing prices, pointing to a new scheme in which households will be given free electricity for 3 hours in the middle of the day.
When the sun is shining at its brightest and power is negative or its cheapest, then consumers should be able to benefit from that.
For consumers without smart meters like Luke Cuato, who can't subscribe to the scheme, longer-term fixes await.
I work from 7 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon. I'm not at home at that time. I don't have any way to capture that free energy. It's just going to be wasted on me.
Daniel Mercer, ABC News.
To more finance, and as we heard earlier, it's been another bad day for the share market, wiping out all of its gains from the past 4 months. Here's David Chow.
A 1.8% drop in one day is pretty steep. And since war broke out in the Middle East less than 3 weeks ago, the Aussie share market is down almost 8%. So if this conflict gets worse, a severe correction is not out of the question. On the ASX, only 20 out of 200 stocks went up today, and the thing they had in common? They're mostly oil companies, especially with oil prices surging above $112 a barrel, which is a 4-year high, after Israel attacked Iran's gas fields for the first time, marking a major escalation in their war. But somewhat surprisingly, the US Navy has actually been letting Iranian oil tankers pass through the Strait of Hormuz. That's according to the US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, who's worried this oil price spike will hurt his supreme leader at the midterm elections. Before the war started, 20 million barrels per day were being shipped through that narrow strait before it was effectively closed. Now, on some days, no oil gets through at all. But on a good day, it's 4 million at best. Locally, today's worst performing stocks were gold miners after the price of gold itself dropped 3%. And the Aussie dollar slipped to 70.4 US cents after the US Federal Reserve decided to keep interest rates on hold. The Fed's chairman, Jerome Powell, said he'd remain on the board as a governor even after his term as chairman finishes in May, possibly despite Donald Trump, who's been trying to sack him for ages. Now, overseas, it was a horrid day for share markets in the US and Asia. And just finally, Australia's unemployment rate went up to 4.3%, which is a fairly significant jump from last month's 4.1%. But on the plus side, it's still a lot lower than many other countries. And that's finance.
Let's go to sport now, and the Matildas say beating a red-hot Japan in the final of the Women's Asian Cup in Sydney on Saturday won't be mission impossible, but defender Steph Catley has conceded the Australians will go into the match as underdogs after Japan thrashed South Korea 4-1 in their semi-final last night.
This is what's at stake.
We've not won a major trophy, and we've put ourselves in the position to a few times.
A generation of exceptional footballers has promised so much, but always fallen short.
It's the chance for Japan!
Including a 1-0 loss to Japan in the 2018 Asian Cup final.
This team in particular, this time around this Asian Cup, this squad is really, really special.
Once again, they'll have to beat a formidable Japan team that scored 28 goals in this tournament and last night demolished South Korea. With pressure, individual brilliance
and the shot on the tying goal!
And elite teamwork.
And the switch of flanks from Matsukubo. And Romina Chiba!
Defender Steph Catley knows the Matildas will be the underdogs.
The way that they play football is beautiful to watch. They're very technical and, just a great team, but it's definitely not mission impossible.
Japan's coach, Niels Nielsen, with tongue firmly planted in cheek, is keen to divert attention from his superstar team.
When they play in front of a crowd like this, of course, Australia are big favourites, massive favourites for the final.
It's football and anything can happen, and we're a great footballing side, and we back ourselves and we're absolutely ready. And I'm sure it'll be a great game.
A nation that's experienced the highs and the lows of supporting the Matildas will be hoping that this time they can finally pull off a win. It may be the last opportunity for the most talented generation of women to play for Australia. David Mark, ABC News, Sydney.
It'll be a great game no matter what. Michael Maguire's found an unlikely ally with support for the under-siege Brisbane coach coming from his counterpart at the Storm. As the sides prepare to square off tomorrow night, Craig Bellamy's rubbish criticism that Madge is ridiculous.
Back in Melbourne, a city where the Broncos haven't won since 2016. The task for the reigning premiers made even more daunting at 0-2.
This is another important step for us as a group. A great test, how we want to play and how we want to go about things. So, we're going through a stage where we haven't quite hit the mark on a few of the things that we've looked at.
And the critics have started to circle, much to the surprise of the man trying to beat him tomorrow night.
I would find it hard to believe that the guy that won, was the coach of a grand final in the side 6 months ago would be under pressure. That's ridiculous.
Maguire insists he's unfazed by the criticism.
To be honest, I don't pay too much attention. As much as people say, it's more around what we're trying to build here. I'm really enjoying coaching this group because we're trying to build something there that can have sustained success.
Brisbane's immediate focus, repelling a Melbourne side that scored 98 points in the opening 2 rounds.
The players are aware of that we've still got areas to improve in, and we're working hard on that.
Jessica Stewart, ABC News.
Now, it's hard to be critical after a 10-goal win, but Suns coach Damien Hardwick says last week's second half just wasn't up to scratch. The Gold Coast play Richmond at the MCG on Saturday. Bailey Humphrey could return from injury, but Brownlow medalist Matt Rowland and Jamara Ugle-Hagan won't feature until after round 3's bye. Mac Andrew has been warned to curb his aggression. The defender got an angry phone call from his dad after giving away a 50-metre penalty that cost the Suns a goal.
At times, he's going to step over the mark. That's the type of volatile nature that those players come with, and it's what makes them great. It also can be what makes them good, can make them bad. Don't give away free kicks. He knows that, and he's better at that, and he understands that.
Jenny is back now with more on the weather, and now we know severe tropical cyclone Narell is very close now, but it follows a very significant one historically.
Yes, Lexy. Queensland's deadliest cyclone hit this region in 1899. A large pearling fleet had sheltered in Bathurst Bay at Cape Melville. Now, the fleet took a direct hit. More than 300 people were killed. There was a huge storm tide, and there were reports of dolphins swept up to the 6-metre-high cliffs. Another system came in from the northwest as well. Fortunately, warning systems are much better these days, and if you are in the impact areas, you can keep up to date on the following ABC frequencies. And a reminder, Narell is expected to cross the coast at 7 a.m, about 2 hours before the high tide. Now, it is likely to be a Category 5 and pass directly over Cohen. Winds are starting to pick up on the southern side. They're spiralling down in a band. Already we've seen a gust of 80 kilometres an hour at Low Isles, that's near Cairns, and during the cyclone, gusts of over 300 kilometres an hour are possible. Temperatures today close to or a little below average. Applethorpe the coolest this morning on 15, a top of 36 at Windora. Brisbane range from 21 to 25, it was 27 to the west, 29 for Gatton. Onto the chart, and away from the north we've got the inland trough, and there's also a little coastal trough developing. Together with some upper systems, there'll be scattered showers, especially about the southeast corner. On to forecast now, and checking those capitals first. Mostly sunny for Perth and Hobart, a mild 23 degrees there, a storm for Canberra with 25. Back home, and of course all eyes on the north as severe tropical cyclone Narell punches its way towards the coastline. There'll be very destructive winds, heavy to intense rainfall, up to 500 millimetres possible, so of course renewed flooding is possible. Across the interior, dry and sunny over the far west, partly cloudy elsewhere. We're looking at a top of 36 degrees in Windora and also Winton, while it'll be 29 in St Lawrence and Gladstone and Monto. In the southeast, coastal showers about on the Sunshine Coast up to 9 millimetres and a top of 28 degrees in Gympie and the Sunshine Coast itself. On the Downs and Granite Belt, some isolated showers around 2, 25 the top in Toowoomba, 27 for Kingaroy, but Dalby warmer, a top of 30 degrees. In Brisbane, up to 7 millimetres possible. We've got a top of 19 to 28 in the city, 29 for Gatton, but generally cooler in Caboolture, 27 there. On the bay, southeasterly winds 15 knots, seas will be below a metre and sunrise will be at 5:51. And looking ahead, showers on the way, but it will be heating up through the week. But of course, for now, the focus remains in the far north. So, Lexy, my advice to everyone is to stay safe and to keep an eye out on all those warnings.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Jenny. And of course, we have a live blog on abc.net.au. In the meantime, here is 7:30. Good night.